This is a movie analysis about the film The Intouchables in the context of cross-cultural management, a course who takes place in autumn 2020 at University of Warsaw. The Intouchables was first published in 2011 and it's a French movie directed by Oliver Nakache and Eric Toledano. It is about the French disabled aristocrat Philippe who searches for a caretaker and finally hires Dries. Dries is a black criminal immigrant from Senegal who lives in the banlieues of Paris. The two become friends against all odds and stereotypes, which says they shouldn't be. Stereotypes are assumptions that we make about groups and which tend to be false, especially when the groups are very similar to each other. These are some of the stereotypes that we have collected about French people in general, and we will now ask a French person whether they are right or wrong. You as a French person, what do you think about the stereotypes about French people?
No, speak English. No, I'm kidding. We actually speak English and it's just a stereotype.
The stereotypes that Dries is facing as a black person living in the banlieues of Paris. The banlieues are suburbs in which 1 out of 5 person is an immigrant. Often these immigrants come from Africa, and this high share of immigration causes a lot of social problems. Therefore, the people are often stigmatized as being criminal and poor, and they are often seen as second-class citizens of the French society. On this chart, you can see some of the most common stereotypes to be held against disabled people. They play an important role in the movie because Dries does not stigmatize Philippe because he's disabled, and that's exactly why Philippe chooses Dries to be his caretaker.
So continuing with the stereotypes and the consistencies and inconsistencies that we found after watching this movie, this section is also divided into these three stereotypical categories that we earlier recognized, being French people, Black people living in France, as well as disabled people. All the remarks that are done in this section are based on only the characters in this specific film. So the consistency with French people was that they love art and are a bit posh and fancy, since Philip in this movie loves art and collects paintings and lives a very fancy lifestyle, living in a big house. In the middle was that they are hopelessly romantic and don't like foreigners, since Philip in this movie has been writing letters and like romantic poems with this woman over a half a year without seeing her. But this might also be that Philip is a bit too afraid to show his disability to this woman. And the fact that French don't like foreigners, maybe it's not maybe necessarily that they don't like, but they might have some preconceptions, as we all might have. Inconsistencies were that they are rude and arrogant, since we didn't really recognize this type of behavior in the movie. Then about Black people living in France, consistency was that they are poor, since Dries in this movie is living in a poor area where a large family lives in a small apartment. In the middle was that they are seen as second-class citizens and that they are criminals, since Philip's friend doubts whether Dries is able to do his job, but then Dries proves them wrong. And also about the criminal background in this movie. Dries has a criminal background, and also his little brother gets into trouble during this movie. Any specific or clear inconsistencies we didn't find. About disabled people, consistency was that they are dependent, since Philip is very dependent on other people and needs help 24/7. In the middle was that disabled people are sad and incapable, since, Philip is sad in the beginning, but then after spending time with Dries, who doesn't really care about his disability. He becomes more joyful, so maybe it's more about the people around you. And about the incapability, in some cases, yes, Philip is physically incapable of doing everything, but not mentally. Inconsistencies were that disabled people are weak and pitiful and live a life not worth living, since Philip shows in this movie that he's still very much capable of doing things such as traveling and going out eating and such.
We chose this model because it's a scientific way to compare different cultures and show how they've been portrayed in the movie Intouchables. We chose France and Senegal because the main characters are noble Frenchman and an immigrant from Senegal. So they have quite different backgrounds and for the reason behave differently even though they are both considered as a French people. In power distance, both France and Senegal score quite the same numbers. The movie shows that in France people accept the power distance, which can be seen as everyone accepting their own position as Philippe's caretakers, and the hierarchy being very normal thing. In individualism, France scores higher than Senegal, and this can be seen in the movie as French people having very small families and Senegalese Tris having many siblings and living in a community in the French suburbs.
In masculinity, France has a feminine upper class and a masculine working class, unlike anywhere else in the world. Senegal, however, is a feminine country. In the movie, this can be seen as Philippe being uncompetitive in life, while Driss is used to having a life full of competition just to survive. In uncertainty avoidance, in France there is a high score as they do not like surprising situations, while in Senegal there is no clear preference. This can be seen in the movie as very clear rules of politeness and avoidance of chaos and the unknown. Philippe, for example, was very shy of new situations in the beginning, and Driss had to really try to get him out of his comfort zone. In long-term orientation, France scores high and is a pragmatic society, and Senegal scores low, which means it is a normative society. This can be seen in the movie as the French staff being very precise and more persevering to achieve certain goals, whereas Driss was more of a live-in-the-moment person who relied on quick results.
And now I will shortly talk about the analysis of the movie. So we thought that the most important scene was when Philip was defending Driss against his friend by saying that he doesn't care about Driss' background or past, and Philip also told that against all prejudices, they actually get along very well. And it was important scene because it refers to the main message of the whole movie, which is something like not to trust stereotypes too much and not to judge anyone beforehand. And another important scene was when Philip was having a panic attack in the middle of the night. So Driss took him out for a walk, and there they talked about Philip's past and his life before the accident. And Driss gave him a joint, and suddenly Philip felt himself better. And it was the moment they both understood that they actually have quite much in common. And I think they also realized that they can learn from each other's. And the most important quote of the movie is what Driss stated when he was talking about self-definition, that it doesn't matter who you are on the outside, the main thing is who you are on the inside. And I think that's something we all should think of.
So, what have you learned from watching and analyzing the movie The Intouchables about a more culturally sensitive management style?
I learned that people from different cultures can teach each other something new.
I learned that first impressions can be misleading and everyone should have opportunity to be themselves without any fears.
I learned that the appearance of a person does not say anything about their character, and that skills can be learned if someone shows engagement.
And I learned that a more culturally sensitive management style could be taken into consideration because people can change for the better with the help of a leading hand.
Thank you so much for sharing your valuable insights, and thanks to the spectator for watching.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.